All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rakakwadash, and double honor to our apostles and our elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth to rule well. I wanted to go into the Sabbath, because there's a lot of people that believe that the Sabbath day is Friday to Saturday, or Saturday to Sunday. But they go according to the Gregorian calendar or the Greek calendar, the Roman calendar. They don't go according to the scriptures, which is a big difference. So I have a couple scriptures lined up, to go into some history. It goes into what the Sabbath day is, man, which is a day of rest. All right, Shabbat, which means, to rest. There's also some other meanings that go behind it. But let me start it off with 1 Samuel 20 and 18. Let me start off at 17. And Jonathan caused David to swear again because he loved him, for he loved him as his own soul. All right, so reason why I brought that one out, verse 17, because David kept the law, statutes, and commandments. David loved Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, and his sin, all right, that was laid upon him was going after a woman that was already married. All right, that's breaking wedlock. All right, when you break wedlock is when a woman's already locked into marriage, locked into a wedding, all right, which a marriage. When you break that is when you go into a woman that's already married. That's breaking wedlock. You see, that doesn't mean having sex before you have the ceremony. That's going off, man. That's something completely different. Those are teachings of men, doctrines of men, all right, laws of men. It's not really a scriptural thing, and people get sensitive about that as well. All right, but it says 1 Samuel 20 and 17, and Jonathan caused David to swear again because he loved him, for he loved him as his own soul. That means he loved him. All right, which in the Greek, the term love that Jonathan loved David with is called agape, which is selfless love. All right, not passionate, interested, sexual love, man. It's selfless love, meaning, and it explains it too. All right, later on, it explains that selfless love because his father, Jonathan's father, which is King Saul, told him, all right, you're blinded by the love you have for this man, not realizing that you're going to be cut off. You're not going to be in rulership like, if you allow King David to be in rulership. But Jonathan was aware of this, man. But he just, if you love righteousness, you're going to love the brothers too, man. And it's not going to be in a lustful love, all right, that Esau Edom always wants to throw in there because he's that lustful lover, all right, that gay pride and all that stuff, man. David was not gay. Jonathan was not gay. It says, verse 18, then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty. All right, so what is the new moon, man? It's Chodash, which is what? The new moon, the first day of the month, the lunar month. You see, the first day of the month is separate from the first day of the week. The first day of the month, all right, is what is it called? When the first month, or when the new month enters in, and then you have to keep the Sabbath according to those moons. And then the first day of the new month, again, is a separate moon, which is not separate. It's just, according to its, calendar, that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai has set forth. But it says Chadash, which is new moon by implication, a month, monthly, all right, a monthly Sabbath. And after that, you keep the Sabbath of that monthly Sabbath, which is what the new moon is. All right, I have some Gad music playing in the background. all right, Native American music. And Gad worshipped in the new moon, you know? Let me see if I can get that real quick. Did the Native Americans worship? All right, because in ancient Israel, what you had was the worshiping or the preaching of the word in the new moon, all right, and on the Sabbath days. For 6 days, it tells you in scriptures, for 6 days is the rooms closed. All right, they're closed off. But on the Sabbath days, which we'll get into, those doors were open. Why? Because that's when they did the preaching, you know? It says, as the new moon demonstrating the soul does not die. Let me see, where is it at? At such time, both humans and breast had to go hungry. 3 spring moons, Native Americans and their lore of the moon. They began their year with the new moon. Check that out, man. All right. It says Native Americans and their lore of the new moon. The Irish times, which the Irish also, certain of the Irish are also Israelites because we're scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth. It says they began their year with the new moon after the vernal equinox, and each was normally just 12 moons long. See that? 12 moons, 12 months. Even so often, so and so. All right, but the Native Americans knew about the new moon. It says collection of Native American moon stories from various tribes, Cree legend about how the new moon was created, illustrated by so and so. Let's see. But yeah, man, even Gad knew about the new moon. Why? Because they're Israelites. They worship on the new moon, all right, and on the full moon, all right, because when it's a full moon, that's not the new moon. It's a full moon, which is halfway through its life, but it's at its fullest. So you have the new moon, the crescent, the full moon, and then another crescent, and that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you have the new moon, you see, which is a new Sabbath. So it goes according to the new moons. God even knew this, which are the so-called Native Americans. So it says the new moon, all right? Let's look up new moon, see what it says. A phase of the moon when its conjunction with the sun and invisible from earth, or shortly thereafter when it appears as a slender crescent, all right? And most of the times it's going to be completely and entirely invisible. That's when it's at its darkest point. It says, 1 Samuel 20:18, then Jonathan said to David, tomorrow is the new moon. That means the moon was going to be dark outside. And thou shalt be missed because thy seat will be empty. All right. Now, why was the seat of David going to be empty? Because one, David already knew. All right. David had already known that King Saul had evil intent, But the excuse was that he was going to go visit his family, maybe to keep the new moon, to keep the Sabbath day. It says, and when thou hast stayed 3 days, then shalt thou go down quickly and come to the place where thou didst hide thyself when the business was in hand, and shall remain by the stone of Azel, and I will shoot the arrows on the side thereof, as though I shot at a mark. All right, so he was telling them, this is how we're going to be able to tell if my father has ill intent or goodwill towards you, So, jumping down to verse 24, it says, so David hid himself in the field, and when the new moon was come, the king sat him down to eat meat. It says, and the king sat upon his seat as the other times, even upon the seat of the wall, And Jonathan rose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. It says, Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought, something hath befallen him. He is not clean. Surely he is not clean. All right. Why? Because in the new moon you had to be clean. You know, you can't sleep with women. You know, you can't sleep with a woman. You can't do manners of work. You know, granted in this lifetime, all right, in this Babylon the Great, all right, we're gonna be eating defiled foods and you know all kinds of wickedness. Everything's upside down. You know, so certain things we're gonna be going off on. All right, but your mindset should be to keep the Sabbath days, to keep the law, statutes, and commandments to the best of your ability. You know, sometimes you have to go to work. Sometimes you may actually call in. You know, it says, and the king sat upon his seat, and other times even upon the seat by the wall. And Jonathan rose, and Abner sat by Saul's side, and David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake not a thing that day, for he thought, something hath befallen him. He is not clean. Surely he is not clean. All right, because you cannot have sex with women on the Sabbath day. And the proof is in the pudding. You know, whenever David, all right, later on in the story, David's going to go into unto a priest, and he's going to tell him to give him some food. But that food is holy food. You know, it was for the priests. You know, and they had it, and David tells him, I've been clean for 3 days, meaning I haven't been with a woman in 3 days. You know, which also goes to show you do not lay down with a woman on the Sabbath day, man. You know, you can't have sex on the Sabbath day. It says, verse 27, and it came to pass on the morrow, which was the 2nd day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, Wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today? All right, and in the kingdom of heaven, we're going to keep this to the perfection. Everybody's going to know exactly when the Sabbath day is, at what time it starts, and everything is going to be to the perfection. All right, right now we preach what we know, and we teach what we know. You know, we know in part, we prophesy in part. You see, and we know that the new moon is important in the Sabbath days. All right, and we know that the Sabbath days are according to the moon. You know, because there's 4 weeks in a month, and every 7 days, all right, the week goes into Salakia. The week goes into the month, so you have to know what month and what day is the Sabbath day of that month and of the weeks, in order to keep the Sabbath day holy. Because the Most High never appointed a Monday, a Tuesday, a Thursday, you know, a Saturday, a Sunday. The Most High never appointed that from the beginning. But he appointed what? The moons and the stars. All right, the moon and the stars and the sun to be for a sign. All right, that's the sign. Those are symbols. You know, that's what we go into in order to know when the Passover is, when the new moon is. It's according to the moon and the sun. You know, like we know when the sun is at its hottest point, all right, is when it's around 12 o'clock. You know, so it says, and Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. And he said, Let me go, I pray thee, for our family hath a sacrifice in the city, and my brother, he hath commanded me to be there. And now I have found favor in thine eyes. Let me get away, I pray thee, and see my brethren. Therefore he cometh not unto the king's table. All right, because they were going to do some sacrifice, you know, for what? For the new moon, the Sabbath day. It says, Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan, and he said unto him, Thou son of the perverse rebellious woman, do not I know that thou hast chosen the son of Jesse to thine own confusion, and unto the confusion of thy mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse liveth upon the ground, thou shalt not be established, nor thy kingdom. Wherefore now send and fetch him unto me, and he shall surely die. All right. And this is where the agape love came in, you know, because he knew that his kingdom wouldn't be established, that it would be King David. But Jonathan feared Yahweh, and he loved David. It says, and Jonathan answered Saul his father and said unto him, wherefore shall he be slain? What hath he done? And Saul cast a javelin at him to smite him, whereby Jonathan knew that it was determined of his father to slay David. All right, and that's how he knew that David would be slain by Saul if he came in contact, you know. So this is 1 Samuel 21:2, and David said to Ahimelech the priest, the king hath commanded me a business, and hath said unto me, let no man know anything of the business whereabout I send thee. And I have commanded thee, and I have appointed my servants to such and to such place. Now therefore it is under thine hand. Now therefore what is under thine hand, give me 5 loaves of bread in mine hand, or what there is present. All right, because he was hungry. You know, King David was hungry, and so were his men. It says, and David answered the priest and said unto him, of a truth, all right, of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days since I came out. All right, since I came out, which was when? On the Sabbath. All right. It says, and the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in a manner common. Yea, though it were sanctified this day in the vessel. You know, so King David was hungry, his men were hungry, all right, and they desired to eat. But it says, of a truth, women have been kept from us about these 3 days. All right, because in Samuel 20, it talked about the 3-day span. The first day, the second day, and then the third day. And that's when David came back and Jonathan shot the arrow. I believe it was in at the end. Let me see here. It was around 34. Yeah, around 34 verse in chapter 20. It says that the second day, Jonathan rose up angry, you know. So it was a time span of 3 days, and King David had said that no woman had been with him for 3 days. Why? Because one, on the first day of the month, it's a sin to do work, all right, or to be with women, you know, to lay down with a woman. You see? So it says, sanctified in the vessel. So this is Matthew. All right, because the book of Matthew also goes into it. And it's talking about the Sabbath. You know, when Yahweh Shai, when the wicked Pharisees and the wicked scribes tried to say that Yahweh Shai was wicked for his men eating of the corn, you know, it says Matthew chapter 12. Let me start off at verse 1. At that time, Yahweh Shai went on the Sabbath day through the corn, and his disciples were hungered, and began to pluck the ears of the corn and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto him, behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day. You see? Which is what? To do, you know, manners of work. Now let's go into the word Sabbath, which is Sabbaton. Sabbaton, which is the 7th day of each week, which is a sacred festival on which the Israelites, not the heathen, were required to abstain from all work. All right, the institution of the Sabbath, the law for keeping holy every 7th day of the week, a single Sabbath, all right, a single Sabbath, or the Sabbath day. It says 7 days out of a week, and out of 4 weeks you get what? A month. All right, so then that month also has to be a Sabbath, the end of the month, which is a new moon. You know, it says or not the end of, a Sabbath lasts 4 weeks, and then it's the new moon. It says, by extension, a Sinite, the interval between two Sabbaths. All right, the interval between two Sabbaths. Likewise, the plural in all above applications, Sabbath day. All right, the interval between two Sabbaths. Let's look at that word, interval. Intermission. Intervening time or space between two Sabbaths. All right, which is what? The new moon. It's the new moon. That's the interval between the Sabbaths. That's when the new moons come in. The Sabbath, Shabbat, the week responds for a secular avocation, also observance and institution. Let's look this up. Let's see. How was the Sabbath observed in the Bible? Just as the Most High observed the first Sabbath, resting from his work of creation, the Jews would observe the Sabbath from sundown on Friday until sundown Saturday, which is off, all right, unless it's actually a new moon. Like right now, it's Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, which is a new moon, and the Sabbaths. It says the Most High is said to keep his day holy and set it apart from the other 6 days. But in the scriptures, again, you didn't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. All right. Every week, observe the Sabbath. Emperor Constantine, however, Roman Empire Constantine issued a civil decree making Sunday a day of rest from labor, stating all judges and city people of the craftsmen shall rest upon the venerable day of the sun, which is Sunday worship, biblical Sabbath. Let's see. The Sabbath is a weekday of rest or time worship given in the Bible the seventh day. It is observed differently in Judaism and Christianity, enforced with similar occasions, several other faiths. Though many viewpoint definitions have arisen over the millennia, more originate in the same textual tradition. Remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy. All right, but you have to remember, all right, to bring back to your memory, the member of your brain. You have to bring it back, So that means what? You have to search the scriptures, Search the scriptures to find when the Sabbath day is. It's not going to tell you when the moon is on its fullest, it's when the new moon comes in. 7 days after that, you have the Sabbath. 7 days after that, you have a Sabbath. And 7 days after that, you have a Sabbath. All right? That's 4 weeks, And then you have your new moon. And then that becomes your new Sabbath days. So it says, as the Sabbath commandment, most people who observe biblical Sabbath regarded as had been made for man. Etymology. Let's see if they have anything. To cease, to stop, translated. Framework, references. Let's see if they have anything on references from other religious books. 5-year-old, 12 sparrows out of clay on Sabbath, which then fly away. Chirping, he also gathered together. Fast as regard the word observe. All right, that word observe, which means to study, to look upon, all right, to keep the Sabbath as a Sabbath. Keep the Sabbath as a Sabbath. It says, it looks like they don't have anything. Of course they wouldn't, but Book of Genesis, Book of Exodus. Immediately after the Exodus from Egypt, Sabbath is revealed as the day upon which manna and manna gathered into the seas weekly. The first of many Sabbath commands is given in both positive and negative forms. 6 days you shall gather it, but on the seventh day, which is the Sabbath, there will be none. Remain each of you in his place. All right, so it's just basically going into everything else but what it is, So let's go into the book of Genesis, and it's for signs. It says, Genesis 1:12, and the earth brought forth grass, an herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and the Most saw that it was good. All right, seed after itself is talking about descendants of that thing. You have an apple. All right, if you dig an apple in the ground, what is it going to become? Nothing. It's just an apple. But if you dig the seeds of the apple, all right, it's going to become what? An apple tree. Same thing with man. The seed of man planted in a woman is going to become what? Of that seed. All right. It's not made of woman, but we're made from women. It says, and the evening and the morning were the third day. That's Genesis 1:13. And then verse 14, and the Most High said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. So is the Sabbath day not a day? The first day of the month, the last day of the month, the beginning of the next month, are those not days and seasons? Do you know? It was placed there for a reason. Verse 15, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. So not until the Most High, it says, and to rule over the day, over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And the Most High that it was good, and the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Yeah, that was it. Let me go back up here, because I meant to read it. Morning was the third day. Verse 16, Salaki, I should have just kept reading. Verse 16, Genesis 1:16, and the Most High made two great lights, all right, or the powers made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also, and the Most High set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And the Most High saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. All right. Took up the word moon. That's talking about something else. Oh yeah, he made them to rule over the light, all right, which is the sun, and to rule over the lesser light, which is the moon, So the Sabbath is the 7 days of each week, all right, and we go according to the moon, according to, not the sun, because the sun looks the same all the time, You don't have certain time periods of the sun, except when the sun is, what is that word? I forgot what it's called, but when the sun is covered by the moon, basically, and then you have the earth covering the moon as well, or the moon. I don't know how to explain it. I forgot the terminology that Esau Edom uses. But the moon covers over the sun, and then you have let me see here. Matthew 12:2. But the Pharisees saw it, and they said unto him, Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day, which is what? No working. You have to rest. It says, But he said unto them, Have ye not read what David did when he was a hungered, and they that were with him? All right, what did David do? He went and he ate of the food that was set up for the saints. All right, and that was on the Sabbath day. That wasn't for people to eat. It was only for the priests to eat. It says how he entered into the house of the Most High and did eat the shewbread, which is not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests? Or have ye not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? Why is that? Because you're preaching the word. All right, you're preaching the word of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. But it says that the priests profane the Sabbath and are blameless. Why? Because they preach on the Sabbath day. Which goes into what? Goes into the scriptures. All right. And Lord willing, I'll come back to this one, then I'll get that one. It says, But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice. Ye would have not have condemned the guiltless, for the Son of Man is the Lord even of the Sabbath day. All right, so coming back to Matthew 12:6, but I say unto you that this place, Matthew 12:5, or have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests of the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? All right, and where is that? For that one, we can go to start off at Acts 13 and 14. But when they departed from Perga, they came to Antioch in Syria and went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down. Why? Verse 15. And after the reading of the law and the prophets, and the rulers of the synagogue sent unto them, saying, Ye men and brethren, if ye have any word of exhortation for the people, say on. All right, so let's look up that word exhortation first. A calling near, all right? A preaching. When you preach, you do what? You call upon the people, all right? A calling near. That's what the word church means. An assembly, a solemn assembly. It says importation, supplication, entreaty, exhortation, admonition, to admonish, all right? Let's look up that word like this. Urging. All right, an urging word of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. It says consolation. All right, an exhortation can be consoling to people. Exhortation can be something, of important. It says right there, importation. Something important. It says comfort, solace, that which affords comfort or refreshment. All right, it's also refreshing to go over these scriptures. All right. It says persuasive discourse, steering address, instructive, admonitory, conciliatory, powerful, hortatory discourse. All right. So bringing something forth to the table. It says to say on. It says, verse 16, and Paul stood up and beckoning with his hand said, Men of Israel, and ye that fear the Most High, give audience. The Most High of this people of Israel chose our fathers. All right, he didn't say chose all nations. He said chose our fathers. All right, so no matter what nation you're from, if your fathers go back to the lineage of Israel, that's who the Most High chose. It says, the people, when they dwelt as strangers in the land of Egypt, and with a high arm brought he them out of it. And about the time of 40 years suffered he their manners in the wilderness. And he had destroyed 7 nations in the land of Canaan. He divided the land to them by lot. All right, so going up, Acts 13 and 14. But when they departed from Perga, they came to Antioch in Syria, and went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and sat down. All right, because it was a custom, or it's a thing where you teach on the Sabbath day. Departed from Perga, Antioch, which is named after Antiochus Epiphanes. It says the synagogue, a bringing together, a gathering. All right, so the synagogue of Satan, if you call a church or a gathering a synagogue, which is what literally the word synagogue means, all right, but it's a Greek word anyways. But that synagogue means a gathering of people. The synagogue of Satan is what? A nation. All right, the nation of Esau, Edom is the synagogue of Satan, man. It says the New Testament assembly together of men, an assembly of men, all right, which is of the Israelites. All right, that's a gathering, you know. So on the Sabbath day, they sat down and reading and admonishing, as we read, and exhorting, you know. That's what they were bringing forth when you go into the synagogue. So going to Acts 17, starting off at verse 1. Now, when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica. There was a synagogue of the Jews. Salakim. And Paul, as his manner was, went into them, and 3 Sabbath days reasoned with them out of the scriptures, which means what? Every Sabbath day, Paul was going back into the synagogue and bringing out the truth. Reasoned, it says, legomi, to think different things with oneself, mingle thought with thought, to ponder, revolve in mind, to converse, discourse with one, argue, discuss. All right, so rebuke, exhort, and admonish. All right, when you bring something that's different or seemingly different, but it's scriptural, all right, really it could be seen as a rebuke, depending on how they receive it. You know, they're like, damn, man, I was going off. You brought it forth, and you resolve. Look at that. You resolved in my mind. You know, you brought it to my remembrance. You know, de alegomi. You know, in Spanish, you say alegar. You know, that's what a lawyer does. When you're a lawyer, all right, in Spanish, what you do to discourse, all right, or to fight against what they're saying is alegar. Let me see if there's if I can find the Spanish or the English word for alegar. You also have allegory. Let me see, alegar. Not llegar, alegar. Lidio, alegar. Yeah, I don't know how to. It's not coming up. But un lidio, which is of dispute. You know, alegar means to discourse. Un lidio is a discourse. You know, a dispute. It says, following manner, dispute, reason with, reason, preach unto, to preach, to speak. So sometimes it looks like we're trying to dispute what you've been taught, which in reality we are disputing, but really it's preaching, you know? All those 3 things go into preaching, you know? So that's what you do in the Sabbath days. You preach, you reason, all right? You go into the scriptures and you're like, well, look here, it says this, and this, no sex, no pleasure, no this, no that. King David didn't sleep with a woman for 3 days, and on that first day, that was a Sabbath day, which was a new moon. You know, and you go back and forth on scriptures, man. And if your scriptures that you're bringing out back up your scriptures, all right, and then the scriptures that they're bringing out also backs up your scriptures, but it gives you a further deeper meaning into what the scripture really means, then that's the one you have to go to, man. You know, like the thing with with Deuteronomy, where women were being taken by force, all right, or where what's it called? You had, whenever you would take the spoils, all right, and you had captives that were taken out of those spoils, you killed off the men, the children you kept, all right, the sons of that nation you kept so they can be slaves, and then the females of that nation you kept, all right, and the young women you kept, the cattle you kept. The only thing you killed off were the men, you know, because the women, if they weren't married, you can take them for spoils, for booty, which that word booty means spoils or treasure, you know. It says that's why women are seen as booty, you know, because they're seen as spoils, you know, and it all goes back to the scriptures. So let me get Ezekiel, going back into the topic at hand, the Sabbath. Ezekiel 46 and verse 1, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, the gate of the inner court that looketh towards the east shall be shut the 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it shall be opened, and in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. All right, why is that? Why is it that the temple is going to be opened on the Sabbath and on the new moon, but on the rest of the days it's closed? Because that's when you go in and you preach. That's where you go in and you dispute. That's where you go in and you speak on things, man. You know? That's why scripture is so important, because when you go into the scriptures, all right, you highlight what you deem necessary, you know? A couple months later, you go back, and as you increase, you know, certain things are going to come out and poke you in the face, man. You know? You might start out with a couple scriptures that you highlight, and then as you increase, you go back into that same book and, oh, look, this is talking about the missiles. Oh, look, this is talking about Babylon the Great. Oh, look, this is talking about the Israelites waking up. You know, as you go through, you know, certain books and you go back into those chapters, it's going to poke out at you, you know, not being stagnant, but increasing as you're moving in the spirit. So in Ezekiel 46 and 1, how would this make sense if the Sabbath day or if the new moon was not a Sabbath? You know, it looks like a Sabbath, it talks like a Sabbath, but it's not a Sabbath. Come on, man. You know, it's really technically a Sabbath, but it's seen as a new moon because it's the new Sabbath. You know, let's see what they have for the word new moon. New moon, Chadash, which I believe I went into earlier. The new moon monthly. It's a monthly thing, a lunar month. All right, Luna is the moon. Lunar month, that word month goes back into the word moon. You know, each of the 12 named periods into which a year is divided. And look at that, the Most High even put it as 12, man. That's why he kept the tribes of Israel as 12. You know, the Most High doesn't do anything out of accident. Everything is exactly the way it's supposed to be. You know, so it says Chodash, monthly, first day of the month. All right, which the first day of the month, 7 days after that, 7 days after that, 7 days after that, 7 days after that are all going to line up. You know, it's all going to line up, man. So this is Chadash, to be new, to renew, to repair, you know. So the new moon is what? A repaired moon, you know. So how are you going to tell the Sabbath days are all going to be the same and it's just a new moon that changes? You know, that doesn't make any sense, man. You know, because then if you think about it in that sense, how are we able to come back to the new moon? You know, how would we be able to come back to the new moon if the new moons Or how would we be able to come back to the Sabbath days if the new moons are the only ones that fluctuate and change, but the Sabbath day has always been the same? Well, tell me, what was the Sabbath day 3,000 years ago, if you know so much? What was the Sabbath day 5,000 years ago? You know? Before Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tell me when the new moon was. You can't. You can't. You wouldn't be able to. Why? Because the new moon is there for, or the moon is there for a reason. You know? The moon has to be there for a reason, man. That reason is not to be ignored. You see? So on this Sabbath, I'm bringing out how you can tell when the Sabbath day is, or bringing out why the Sabbath day is on the new moon. Because the Most High said it that way. All we're doing is coming out and preaching, all right, disputing the fact that the Most High set up the new moon for signs and for wonders, you know? So again, Ezekiel 46:1, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, the gate of the inner court, which is where the Israelites went into to preach, like we read the Apostle Peter, John, even Yahushua, all the apostles would go in on the Sabbath days and they would teach. Or they would go out to the highways and the byways, you know, but especially on the Sabbath day. It says, the gate of the inner court and looketh toward the east shall be shut 6 working days. 6 working days. So on the 7th, it's what? The Sabbath. But on the Sabbath, it shall be opened. Why? Because that's when they went to preach. And the day of the new moon, it shall be opened. You see? Because it's a Sabbath. It's a new Sabbath. And the prince shall enter by the way of the porch of the gate without, and shall stand by in the post of the gate, and the priest shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offerings, and he shall worship at the threshold of the gate, and then he shall go forth, but the gate shall not be shut until the evening. Why? Because from evening to morning are the next days. You know, that's when the next day starts. The evening and the morning. Those are the next days. You know, like it says in the book of Genesis chapter 1, like we read, from the evening to the morning was the first day. You know? So the evening, really at evening is the start of a new day. So at the end of the Sabbath day, that's when the doors will be shut. At the evening. You see? It says, verse 3, likewise the people of the land shall worship at the door of this gate before Yahweh in the Sabbaths and in the new moons. All right, so if the Most High says, no days can you ever go out there and worship except on the Sabbaths and on the new moons. No days out of the week. All right, think a lot more simple. Not just out of the month, out of the week. All right, out of the week, only on the Sabbath days can you worship. Out of the month, only on the Sabbath days and on the new moons can you worship. So what does that mean? That means the new moon is an equivalent to the Sabbath, man. It's just a new moon, a new Sabbath. That's what dictates the Sabbaths. And the Most High said it that way so it can be in order, so that thousands of years later, whenever we come back into this truth, when we come back into our heritage, we can search the scriptures and look and say, hey, look, the new moon, the Sabbath has to be, in concordance. So then what do? You have your new moon, and then you have your Sabbath days, and then your new moon, and then your Sabbath days. Rehearsing the righteous acts, man. How can you rehearse the new moon or the Sabbaths? How can you rehearse the Sabbaths if you don't believe in the new moon? You're going to be going by what? By Esau, Edom, by these devils, whatever they say. The Gregorian calendar, the Greco-Roman calendar. Oh, let's go by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I read how he went after the Sunday worship. It says, unto the evening, verse 3, Ezekiel 46:3, likewise the people of the land shall worship at the door of this gate before Yahweh in the Sabbaths and in the new moons. And the burnt offerings and the price shall offer unto Yahweh in the Sabbath day shall be 6 lambs without blemish, and on the ram and a ram without blemish. And meat offering shall be ephah for a ram, and for a meat offering of the lambs, and he shall be able to give, and of a hin of oil to an ephah. All right, I never understood these scriptures before, why they had some type of importance. All scripture has importance. All right, and Ezekiel 46 goes into the new moon, what it talks about. You know, in the day of the new moon, it shall be a young bullock without blemish, and 6 lambs and a ram, and they shall be without blemish. Now, why would the Most High say, all right, only on the Sabbath days can you do this, can you do that, and do this on the Sabbath, and do this on the Sabbath? Oh, also on the new moons, do this. Why? Because it's the same importance. It's the same thing. You know, it says, and each shall prepare a meat offering, an ephah for a bullock, and an ephah for a ram, and for the lambs according to his hands shall attain unto, and a hin of oil to an ephah. And when the prince shall enter, he shall go in by the way of the porch and on the gate, and he shall go forth by the way thereof. You see? And the solemn feasts, how can you tell when a solemn feast is, man? Either a couple days after the Sabbath day. You know? It'll tell you this many days after the Sabbath, this is what you're going to worship, this is what you're going to do, and this is what you're going to do, and on the Sabbath day you're going to do this, and on this and that. It was there set for a reason. You know? From the beginning of the month, 14 days after, that's the Passover, which falls on what? On a Sabbath. All right? Because 7 and 7 is what? 14. So on the 14th day of a new moon is a Passover, which is 3 Sabbaths. You know? I mean, scripture is clear, man. It's crystal clear to those that want to hear, to those that get rebuked. All right? It's harder to understand because you're so used to a certain way that you've been taught, you know? But that's just the way the Most High said it. So let me go to Isaiah, and I'm going to end it on the next one, Isaiah 66. Actually, I have another one after that. Isaiah 66, Salakia, verse 23. And it reads, and it shall come to pass. All right, it shall come to pass. Not maybe, not possibly, not, you got to pray for it. No, it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcass of the men that have transgressed against me, and their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. You see? This is talking about a Sabbath day and a new moon. Now, why would those two be important? From one new moon to another. All right, so month to month, from rest to rest, shall all flesh come and worship before me, saith Yahweh. All right, from one moon to another, that's every month. From one Sabbath to another, that's every week. Every week goes into what? A month. So the Sabbath, the new moon dictates what the Sabbath is. This is Amos chapter 8, and I'm ended on this one. Amos chapter 8, verse 5, saying, when will the new moon be gone that we may sell corn? All right. What couldn't you do on a Sabbath day? You couldn't buy or sell. You couldn't do any manner of work, right? That's what a Sabbath is about. So when it says in verse 5, Amos 8 and 5, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small, and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit. All right, and that goes into something else, but that word right there, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, because it's the same thing, man. You see? Jumping out of verse 7, Amos 8 and 7. And Yahweh hath sworn by the excellency of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. So keeping the Sabbath day is a very important thing, man. That's part of going into the works, going out to the highways and the byways, making videos, studying, reading, admonishing, exhorting, rebuking. It all goes into doing the work of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. So the new moon dictates the Sabbath. I hope that was edifying. And with that, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash, and double honors to our apostles and our elders of Great Millstone. Shalom to Yakim out there, pushing out this word out in sincerity and in truth. Shalom.